Anytime I feel introverted, it's because I have either consciously or unconsciously convinced myself that my inner monologue and my inner world is far more fascinating than the inner monologue and the inner world of any other person outside of me. I've convinced myself that what I have to say and what I think is far more witty, far more clever, far more imaginative than what any other person could possibly showcase, what any other person could possibly illustrate. Now, it's not important whether this is true or not. What's important in my experience, what I know to be true, is that if I allow myself to remain introverted for longer and longer stretches of time, I can recoil within myself to the point where I run the risk of forgetting what it means to socialize, how much fun it is to strike up a conversation with a stranger, how exciting it is to meet people you've never met before, to go places you've never been before. You run the risk when you remain introverted for long stretches of time of forgetting how to socialize, forgetting how to be the social creature you're certainly able to be. Whether you're programmed to be that primarily is a different question, but you're certainly able to be a social creature. You're certainly a creature that wants to socialize to some degree, whatever that degree may be. Wherever you fall on the sliding scale, you want it to some degree. If you remain introverted for longer and longer stretches of time, however, you run the risk of forgetting how to perform that function, how to get even the little you may want, assuming that you only want a bit of socialization, assuming that you only want to get one cocktail every calendar year with a buddy, perhaps around the holidays, just to catch up, just to talk about what happened over the year. Assuming that's all you want, you may run the risk of forgetting how to do even that. And even if you remember consciously, even if you have a logical blueprint, a step-by-step action plan of what you typically do when you meet up with someone for drinks, or when you go to the club, or when you walk into a museum, when you go to a sports league, it's not the same as being able to do it unconsciously, being able to do it naturally in the flow of events with the tide, not against the grain, not against the flow, but with the flow. Because when you're doing it simply through a logical set of steps, you're doing it in a state where you're watching yourself perform these actions, which means there's no feeling. There's no emotional resonance. All of your actions are going to perform the function they need to, but they're not going to land. They're not going to stick. They're not going to cause the people in that room to remember what you did. You're going to be like a ghost, in and out. They'll remember you when they look at a picture. They'll be able to recall something, or perhaps they'll say, oh, I remember when so-and-so was there. Oh, I remember they were there. Oh, I remember when they showed up at that event or that party or that celebration or that meeting. I remember that, but they won't be able to recall anything specific. These are the events where people will say, oh, I remember when so-and-so did this, when they did X, Y, Z, but they're really just agreeing with whoever brought it up in the first place, somebody who may have remembered, someone who may have remembered falsely, because you and I remember things falsely almost all the time. Our memories are not what we think they are. So if you remain introverted for a long time, you run the risk of forgetting how to socialize entirely. And you've seen this over the past 5-6 years, ever since the world shut down. People who weren't living as introverts, whether they were inclined to be introverts or not, became introverts because of the world shutting down. People who used to work out, people who used to attend run clubs, go to the clubs, go to bars, go to restaurants, walk around the park, people who used to strike up conversations with strangers, people who used to be all for traveling and adventure. These people don't do it anymore. They scroll on TikTok, or they watch Twitch streamers. They watch Kick streamers. They participate in sub battles, whatever happens on these various streaming platforms. They go into the rabbit hole of conspiracies. These people rot in bed. They order DoorDash every single day of the week. They never leave the apartment. They got remote jobs. They move to a state where they don't know anybody. And since they're working a remote job and they're inclined to scroll on TikTok and they don't know anybody in this state, perhaps in a city where the cost of living is far less, meaning there's probably less to do. It's probably less lively in the downtown metro area. It's certainly not a Chicago. It's certainly not as buzzing as the Magnificent Mile, right? These people have no incentive to go out anymore. They have completely isolated themselves from human interaction. And you and I have seen that over the past 5 or 6 years that we've lost a lot of people, perhaps for good, because it doesn't take 5 or 6 years to completely shut you off from ever rekindling this desire to go out and interact with people. It doesn't take 5 or 6 years. It takes weeks. It takes a couple of months, maybe half a year at the most. If you give it a year, it's definitely going to happen. If you isolate yourself that long, unless you are an extrovert to the nth degree, and you're just bubbling over with this desire to get back into civilization, to get back to the big major metro, to go ride the train, go talk to anyone, go have coffee with the biggest weirdo you can find, somebody who dresses in a manner that repulses you, somebody who smells, I don't know, right? Unless you're that extrovert, if you give it a couple weeks or a couple months, half a year at most, you're going to atrophy that social muscle, that muscle that tells you, go out, see the world, meet the people, shake the hands, kiss the babies. And if you're in a place where you've been introverted for a while, or you feel like you're slipping into a state of introversion that feels like a black hole, feels like a sinkhole, feels like something you're not going to be able to pull yourself out from, the only thing I know that's worked for me is taking the leap of faith and convincing myself that whether it's true or not, other people have inner monologues and inhabit fascinating inner landscapes that you are not privy to because you're not talking to them, because you're not asking them questions, because you're not receiving their body language, because you're not present in the moment, because you don't care. And if you do decide to care, if you do decide to listen, if you do decide to ask questions, if you do decide to get outside of your own internal monologue and exit your own inner world to go inhabit theirs, even if it's for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, perhaps it could be for 1 or 2 lines of dialogue on the script of life, you'll find that other people have fascinating stories to tell. Even if they're banal, even if they're mundane, there's something in there. There's something to glean from each and every person. And if you really can't find anything, well, the old saying, in sales at least, is that it's a numbers game, right? Go up to as many doors as possible. Knock, knock, knock. If they want it, great. If they don't, move on. Eventually someone will. I know, being someone who used to Nordock in life insurance, if you can't get one person, go get the next person. If you can't get them, keep on knocking until the cows call you home, right? So if you're feeling introverted, take the leap of faith. Be like Indy in The Last Crusade. You don't see the path before you. You want to get to the Grail room. You want to hold the treasure in your hands, the cup of Christ. And this is a bit of an exaggeration, of course, because we're not getting that philosophical. We're not getting that deep. This is not some spiritual quest, at least not this initial leap of faith. But this could lead to something down the line. In any case, take the leap of faith, even if you can't see the path. Even if you think, oh my God, I'm going to fall to my death. Even if you think, there's no way I'm making that jump. Make the jump. You just don't know what somebody's going to tell you. You just don't know what sort of story somebody's going to bring up. You just don't know the person you're interacting with. You just don't know the contradiction that's standing before you in line at the Chick-fil-A. You have no idea. And if you do it once, you'll probably feel inspired to do it again. And if you do it a second time, you'll probably feel motivated to do a third time. And then once you get in the habit of it, all of a sudden, you start forgetting what it's like to be an introvert. You start associating yourself with other extroverts. You start believing that you are an extrovert. Oh my God, I'm an extroverted person. Oh my God, I'm not an introvert. I'm not a homebody. I'm not somebody who wants to sit inside. No, of course not. I want to go out. I want to go do things. This is the pendulum of life. Then, of course, you get too extroverted. Your social battery drains. You start being an introvert. You stay inside. You watch movies. You watch TikTok. And then you slide back down. You recoil back into yourself. And then you find yourself watching this video again. That's life. But if you're in that introverted state now, take the leap of faith. Flip the pendulum to the other side. Slowly but surely. One act at a time. Until inevitably, it's time to flip it back again. With that, say God bless. Have a great day or evening, depending on what time it is for you. I'll see you in the next one.